welcome to the Read to Inspire podcast. I am Sibongiseni Mgolozeli, your host. One of our major goals in this podcast is to help the authors to promote and market their books through these one-on-one interviews. Of course, our bigger mission is to promote the reading culture within the African continent and beyond. We believe that reading is the absolute best foundation ever if you want to be successful in any area of your life. Today, I'm excited to share and even to say that I am joined by my friend who is an author of a book called Orphaned by Suicide. Her name is Alicia Ramdharee. She will tell us more about her book in a minute, but now I would like to start by doing a brief introduction by reading at the back of her book, the bio. So Alicia Ramdharee is a speaker and the founder of a suicide awareness support group aimed at giving hope, inspiration, and motivation to those left with the burden of dealing with suicide. Alicia resides in Rustenburg, South Africa with her husband, Shivan. Her mission in life is to save a life, even if it is just one life at a time. My friend, thank you for joining me and welcome to the Read to Inspire podcast.
Thank you so much for having me again on your beautiful platform.
Beautiful platform indeed. Thank you so much. Now, tell me, how are you feeling before we get rolling into the book?
Firstly, I'm nervous, but I'm sure the nerves should die down as we get on with the interview. Overall, I'm doing good. I'm enjoying a bit of sunny Rustenburg today. It's not that cold. And I prepped a nice meal. So yeah, I'm good.
Prep the meal. So I believe it's still winter that side. And what did you make for the cold weather?
Well, it is still winter on this end of the world. Crazy enough, we had some cold on Thursday and Friday, and it rained. Can you believe it?
Wow.
And for supper today, we are having some rice with a nice lamb curry and potatoes.
Okay. Nice. All right, let's get into the book before we get too excited. So your book basically is a memoir, right? And I think it's fair to start by this question to ask, who is Alicia? Please tell us about your background and your upbringing.
You know, this question always catches me, like, who is Alicia? You always wonder when you have to talk about yourself.
Yeah.
So if I can put it in this way, Alicia is a beautiful soul, a bubbly person, a person that loves helping others. She came from a very hard background. She lost her family to a murder-suicide at the age of 12. And she's basically blossomed into this beautiful woman that I actually admire. And she's inspired quite a few younger generations as well as older generations. And oh, this is actually hard speaking about me. I don't know what else to say.
Okay, that's okay. Maybe as you go along with an interview, you will just add some of the things you would have loved to include in your introduction.
I guess in a ball, you can say that I've grown into this warrior woman that I'm proud of, from where I've been and how far I've come. If I look back, I've really grown into this beautiful person. And regardless of all my obstacles, trials, and tribulations in life, I've done exceptionally well. And I hope this interview can shed some light on it and people can learn and take something away from it as well.
Absolutely. So one of the things I believe wholeheartedly about people's lives is that we all have stories to tell, right? And storytelling is an art. By art, I always say there's always like the adversity in that art is basically an acronym, adversity, R for resolution, like the solution after that adversity, and the T is basically the take-home message. So I'll approach this interview in that kind of an acronym or structure. In your book, you tell us about the tragedy that happened on the 11th of December, 1999. Tell us, what coping mechanisms did you employ as a 12-year-old that made you, to do or to deal with that tragedy in a better way, and even later in...
Okay, first question, the tragedy, taking you back to the 11th of December, 1999. That is the day my dad planned out his suicide attempt. Along with that suicide attempt, he murdered my mom, my baby brother and sister. My siblings were younger than me. I was fortunate not to be in Durban at the time of the incident. I was in Johannesburg on holiday, and in that way I was saved. The tragedy affected me in more ways than one, mentally, emotionally, and physically. When we speak of 12-year-olds and you look at 12-year-olds today, we were still, we babies at that age. Yeah. And nobody prepares you for such a tragedy. And being that 12-year-old child at the time, I honestly did not know how to handle the news of this tragedy. It played on my mind that it's probably a joke. My dad, my mom, my siblings are still alive, or, it's just one of those things. I made up a lot of things in my mind to keep me sane. I did cry because some part of your brain does tell you, it could be true, it's not true. So you try to go with what makes you feel better. And what made me feel better was it's not true. We arrived in Durban. I think it was the next day or during the course of the night we drove through. Upon arrival, I'll leave out the gruesome details, but I did witness certain thieves that were still in the house. And it made me realize, okay, part of this is true. But I still believe that it was not true until I saw the bodies of my family. And the next day when we had the funeral, it was reality that sunk in. My family is no longer. I did not know how to cope with that at the time. I cried hysterically to a point where tears ran dry and your heart ached. And the years to come, I was suicidal. I longed for my parents and my siblings. I longed for that love. I longed for being in that environment that I once knew. And now living in a new environment, it was just a huge adjustment to my life. Suicidal thoughts crept in all the way into my young adult ages, as well as into my adulthood. And, it's really hard to say that when someone tells you, think positive, it's really hard to think positive. Yeah. When you always have these negative thoughts in your mind and you try, no matter how hard you try to push them away, they somehow try to find their way back. So it's actually, I would say, an art to try and learn to be positive and to just think, okay, this is the situation. Let's push out the negative and think of a positive. So that was one of the things that I mastered later in my adult years. And I managed to suppress those suicidal thoughts. So that was one of my coping mechanisms of, putting the negativity to sleep. And also speaking to friends. That helped me a lot during my school days. It helped to talk to people that were there to listen, to have that support structure, which is really important to have.
Absolutely, absolutely. You also mentioned that you had to suppress those negative thoughts, but also you say you learned like this is an art, you had to do something. Someone would say, okay, suppressing maybe would not last, would not be, let's say, effective for a very long time. as part of the coping mechanism, did you maybe consider like professional help? Because obviously family support is also key, and friendship support as well. Professional help, maybe seeing a therapist or like a professional in general.
Yes, I would agree 110% with that in seeing a professional. I know a lot of people think that it's not something for them, but you need to seek professional assistance. Seeking professional advice is my number one to go to. I know, I think it must have been about 5 years ago, where I actually needed to seek professional assistance. Like I mentioned, friends and family only help until a certain level. And seeking a professional helps on a wider scale. They teach you mechanisms, and it's not all about, diagnosing and then feeding you medication. No, it's about talking and finding the root cause of what's causing your anxiety, what is causing these suicidal thoughts. So it is good to go and seek, professional assistance.
Absolutely. So my next question was about, I was going to ask you about your memories growing up as part of the previous question in terms of like the good, the bad, and the ugly. But some of them you might have already mentioned. It doesn't have to be related to your family, but anything you'd like to share so that people can get to know you better.
Memories. Oh, I love memories, and I love creating memories.
Awesome.
It's one of the things that keep us human beings going. I mean, if we don't have memories, be it good, bad, or ugly, we've got nothing to turn to. I mean, we take out photos on a daily basis, and that's a memory. It gives you this warm, fuzzy feeling of going through a photo book and looking at those photos. So one of my fond memories is whenever we had time off. My dad was a school teacher. My mom stayed at home, and my siblings were younger than me. So I had a baby brother. He was at home. My sister was in grade 1, and that left me in, I think, grade 7 at the time. So we would all, on a weekend, either go for a picnic to the park. We love gardening, so we'd go to the nursery, buy a few plants, come home, and be busy in the garden. We love doing that. Mom's amazing food. She always cooked the most nicest of stuff and baked the most delicious scones. My dad always did stage decor on the sidelines. I was his right-hand man. Obviously, mom couldn't come along on these things because we had my siblings to take care of. And it was normally just me and dad that would go out and sort these out. I learned a lot from that. We sat at flea markets as well. And you wouldn't believe I sit at flea markets as well these days. And it's more fun than back in the day. Because now I understand the value of it. Bad memories, I would say they aren't that bad if I look at them. They are just memories that were life's lessons. And when I look back, it taught me a lot. One of it was a tragedy. And it's a memory, but it's something that's changed my life. Yeah.
Okay. Now I think let's move on to maybe during your teenage years, a part of your life. You eventually moved to Johannesburg, of course, for your schooling career. And one of the funny stories I enjoyed reading in your book is about you getting mugged in Joburg. These are common stories in Johannesburg. I am curious to know, how did you get robbed at knife point? How did that happen? Please share the story.
That was because I love gold jewelry so much, and you must know it was layers of chains, so that attracts attention. But the younger me didn't think of that now, because it's jewelry, it's nice, So I think it was in the heart of Lens. I'm not sure if you've been to Lens, but it was in the heart of Lens. And
Wow.
I was actually window shopping. I think it was a shoe shop that I was outside of.
Okay.
And it was very quiet. Another flag, which I should have noticed, but it didn't trigger anything at that point.
Mm.
And the next thing, I just feel a tug at the back of my neck and the chain cut.
Ooh.
And the next thing, the guy standing in front of me with, like up close in my personal space. And I'm looking at him and he's like, give me your jewelry. And I just stood there. And then he's like, if you don't. And then I look down and I see there's a knife in his hand. I'm like, okay, just take it, take it.
Yeah.
So that's how I got mugged. It was scary. It did happen a few times after that where I had my cell phone stolen out of the car window. Yeah, so I've had my bad experiences with that, but I've learned from it. I've learned now not to wear flashy jewelry out in public and to be in a busy area, not alone.
Yeah, all right. Apart from crime or maybe the robbery in Joburg, can you maybe share some of your fond memories of you living in Johannesburg?
Fond memories. I love staying with my grandparents. It was always warm and entertaining. My grandmother was always a sport.
Yeah.
She actually taught me a lot of morals and values that I cherish up until today. Ma made me work a lot. I refer to my grandmother as Ma. She made me polish floors, which I opted to do the one day.
The
And
stoop, the one
that's
you need to
something I would
polish
never
red.
forget.
Yeah.
I would never forget, and I'd never want to polish a floor ever again.
Okay.
That was a lesson learned. The winters in Johannesburg were pretty cold, so this Durbanite had to learn how to dress up for winter.
Yeah.
What else? Like, I think just having family closer and being, like just a distance. Or when I lived with my grandparents, we would take a taxi to go shopping. And that was something for me that, was exciting. It's almost like you're going on an adventure. We didn't have a vehicle at home. So taking a taxi or, hitchhiking until you find someone that could take you to a certain place. So those are some of my memories that I actually love. It was a good period in my life, a good cherished memories. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, you moved around, I must say, and then eventually after your stint, I don't know how many years, 4 or 5 years in Joburg, you moved to Kinross, which is in Mpumalanga, not so far from Secunda. I think Secunda is mostly known by people who are not necessarily from Mpumalanga.
Yes.
And you did your grade 12 there, your matric. Maybe you can tell us about your life in Mpumalanga, especially during your matric year.
Okay. During my matric year, it was actually my grade 11 year when I moved to Kinross. And it was a new environment for me, new school, new friends, new everything. The level of education in the school was very high, not to what I was used to. I fooled around in my first year of grade 11, not so good. It caused me to fail. I take full responsibility for that due to my negligence in my schoolwork and not studying and carrying the ways that I brought from Johannesburg to Secunda. It caused me to fail. It wasn't a good thing for me. I was embarrassed. Again, I was suicidal because how do you go back to school and face your friends? And I realized that we are given second chances and I can go back and do it better. So the following year, I went back, I repeated my grade 11, I passed, I made it to grade 12, and that was one of the biggest failures in my life. It was the first time I ever failed a grade. My dad being a teacher and, teacher's daughter, it's like a big thing now, to fail. But that failure has taught me that failure is a stepping stone in life. And no matter what we fail at, we can always try again and do it better or find a different way and achieve that goal. So that for me was my highlight of, whatever we go through in life, whatever failure it is, it's not a failure, it's a lesson. We learn from it. No matter how embarrassing it is, who's going to talk behind your back and not be your friend because you failed, it's fine.
Yeah.
Go and do it for yourself. And I'm glad I went and I did it. I repeated my grade 11. I went through grade 12, experienced the whole thing. And here I am today.
Woohoo! Here you are indeed. Your life in Mpumalanga was quite also, I'm sure you will smile when I mention this. That's also where you met your sweetheart.
Yes.
Even a whole chapter in your book is dedicated to your husband. Please share the story of how you guys met and how you eventually went to settle in Rustenburg, which is where you are residing now.
Okay, so I met Siobhan while doing community service. We were hosting a medical camp at one of the rural areas in Kinross.
Okay.
And I just checked this guy looking at me. He's just staring at me nonstop. I went to make coffee, and here he pops his head in and is like, "Can you make me a cup of coffee?" And I looked at him. I'm like, "You've got hands, you've got legs, you can make it yourself." And that's where it all started. We started messaging each other. I mean, that time we didn't have WhatsApp, so it was SMSs and mix it.
Yeah.
So we would chat like that. And as the years grew on, we started dating and seeing more of each other. And it was in 2009 where we decided, okay, we want to be serious. 2014, we got married. And I was working. So I had to do the big move to Rustenburg. And happily married now next month. So actually, December this year will be 9 years that we are married.
Ooh, that is an achievement. Almost
and I know him. I know Siobhan since 2004.
Wow. Okay, that's great. I mean, your love story is beautiful, but since because the podcast was restricted with time, this was fun to read, obviously with other part of your life as well, whereby I was laughing a lot, the whole lot of, events happening, some sad, happy and laughing. That's one thing that was happening in this book as I was reading. At some point, I had to tear up because, the book is basically written from the heart. You were very raw in terms of how you shared your story. And like I said, we cannot go into details about everything. Obviously, the purpose of the podcast is just to entice the viewers so that they can go and find out more about the books. And I'm glad we just focus only on the fun and positive ones. Obviously, of course, we have said that there are negatives as well, but they must go out there and get the book and read to find more details about it. Maybe now, before we wrap up with the question related to the books, is there anything that you feel like is very critical that maybe might be a seller to the viewer that will entice them to go and read the book that we haven't covered yet in this conversation?
Okay. When you read or when you see the book, Orphaned by Suicide, I think the catchy word is orphaned and suicide. But don't be fooled by the title. Yes, it does touch on my past life of being an orphan. It does touch on suicide, but it also has new beginnings and love, and it captures moments of how I grew up to be me in this day and age. It's something that most people keep to themselves, but I spoke openly, wholeheartedly, and it's a book that you must read. It speaks of our everyday life, things that, marital problems that we don't speak of, things that happen behind closed doors. There's a little bit of everything in this book, not only about being an orphan because of the suicide, but also because of this tragedy, this is where I am. And you need to read the book to understand what we're talking about. You have to read it.
Absolutely. And it's so relatable. I mean, you don't have to be an orphan or suicidal to be able to relate to the book. We all go through challenges in life. By me saying it's relatable, you can actually, what you have been through, your challenges, you can relate and eventually find a strategy, maybe learn the coping mechanisms that you employed as you shared in the book. And you can then use to your own personal challenges, maybe the ones that you are going to face in the future. So it arms you like that to be able to navigate the life challenges in a very smooth way, if I can put it that way. Now, my friend, I think that's all about the book. So I left with only 10 minutes, but I wanted to ask you, as an author, obviously, it's understandable that you also love to read. You are a member of Visionary Readers Book Club. Yay. My question is, what are the 2 or 3 book titles that have positively impacted your life?
Okay. Yes, I do have a lot of books. I have a section that is read and unread. I do get into these moments where I just want to climb into that closet and sit and read. So one of my first books that actually got me started reading again, and it was where the whole positive thoughts and how to have a positive mind actually really helped me, was The Secret.
Oh,
I really loved reading this book.
Yeah.
And it just put things into perspective. And I actually apply this on a daily basis. So yeah, if you want to lead a more positive life, The Secret. And I actually don't have a second or third. Every single book that I've read up until now, there's a message in each book, if I can say that.
Yeah.
So there's no favorites. This stays the number one. But whatever book I've read up until now, each author has a message in their book. And that's what I hold dear to me, whatever I've read. So I think each author can relate. Whenever we read another author's book, there's something in there that's special and it just holds with us. So I'd leave it like that.
I see. Okay, thank you. I totally understand. I can attest to that as an author myself. My next question would be, if you had to send a message to your younger self, what would you say to yourself?
Oh. Not all band-aids, plasters heal a wound, like the moment we get hurt, we put a plaster on the wound. And I think in life we have this effect, like, a plaster will fix everything.
Yeah.
And I want my younger self to know that it's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to feel what you're feeling. It's valid. And know that you are loved. It may not be by friends or family or total stranger, but someone out there, and there are people out there that love you for who you are. And they are going to hold you and give you all the love and blessings that you need. And that's going to carry you through.
Wow. That is so powerful. I'm sure even there's so many reasons why I asked that question, but I don't want to reveal. Everyone can just dissect for themselves the reason why. I have one last more question. I would like to know, when all is said and done, maybe when you leave this planet, what would you like to be remembered for?
I actually don't think I want to be remembered. But not as the physical being, but maybe for the work that I've done. Remember to carry on the work that I've been working on, the suicide awareness campaigns, carry the book through, or whatever the book is written about, carry something from there that you can share from generation to generation. I don't want to be remembered as, oh, that girl that was orphaned at the age of 12. No, maybe as a warrior of fighting to spread the word of mental health and giving it a new look that everyone is capable of talking about their mental health, and that we finally have done away with stigmas. I think that's what I would like. Not me, but the essence of the book and whatever I've worked on.
I get you. Obviously, people will relate if they read the book. That's basically what you shared in the book. You even founded your own suicide awareness support group. So it's pretty clear you would love to be remembered as that champion or warrior, as you've said, for mental health. Thank you so much, my friend, for joining us and for sharing your story with us. We are running out of time. I would like to say thank you one more time. And to our readers or to our viewers who are watching this conversation, thank you so much for tuning in or for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you will stay updated as we bring in more authors. For now, thank you so much and goodbye.